Hi everyone, this is Juanita. I am the creator of Land of the Free, and I'm here today to tell you about my class. So, I grew up in a very rural part of Idaho. It's very idyllic, mountains, rolling hills, forests, desert. It was all there, and it was very, very idyllic, very Anne of Green Gables-ish. I have memories of falling asleep on the tractor with my dad, and my dad taking me places in the winter in the tractor because there's too much snow, we couldn't drive. Anyway, it was very idyllic, and looking back, I loved it, but at the time I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate having to get up early in the morning and having to go feed the cows or feed the calves. Like, these are my calves. One was my calf, the other was my sister, and we fed them every morning, every night, and I did not appreciate that. It was not something that I looked forward to ever. And as I grew up, I appreciated it more, but especially when I had teenagers, they were very good at being teenagers. And one summer I sent them to Grandpa's house for a couple of weeks. And in those couple of weeks, what a change. In that short amount of time, they built fences, they moved cattle, they dug ditches, and of course rode the tractor and all the other farm equipment. And their self-confidence grew, and it became very apparent to me how important these lessons were, these life lessons that they had gained on Grandpa's farm. We couldn't move to a farm. We needed to find those experiences where we were. And so when I came across William and Bernie DeMille's lectures on Georgics, I was in love. I loved it. I wasn't satisfied with the class, so I came up with my own. And so, what is Land of the Free? Land of the Free is what I like to call a character class. It is a class that the main purpose is to form your character into who you want to be. It's not a skills class where you work on certain skills like piano. It's not an intellectual class like a history class or a mathematics class, but it's a character class. And we do that through projects. We learn characteristics within ourselves doing projects. And these projects can be a variety of things. They can be making a terrarium in class. It can be taking care of a pet. It can be, just so many different things that it can be. And those projects are what you fill your class time with and how the kids learn. So we study the qualities that are commonly used by farmers and ranchers, and we adapt them to our personal life. That is what being Georgic means. Now, we know it is not everybody's mission in life to be a farmer or even to have a successful garden every year. However, these principles will help your personal mission be more successful. The principles are they are a key element in being successful in your life's mission. So the time commitment, as a teacher of the class, you should plan on teaching this class for 2 semesters. Each semester is about 15 weeks, and teach it every week for about 2 hours. And then each week plan on about an hour or 2 of prep time for each class, just depending on what is on your schedule for the week and the books that you're reading, etc. For the students, the time commitment varies. It varies on how you are framing your class. I like to have the class flexible so that you can adjust it to younger kids or older kids. And if you have younger kids, then of course you're not going to have any homework expected of them. And if the older they are, the more homework that they will have, the more projects they will have. Each month, there'll be a book to read, there'll be writing assignments, there'll be journal assignments, they'll take turns giving presentations, and of course the projects that they'll be doing. So I think the most that the older kids would have would be 2 to 3 hours a week. But of course they can, go more deep into it, and it can take more. The the books, with the books, there is a list in the manual of recommended books that would be great for the class. There's a wide variety of them, from Anne of Green Gables to Little Men to Little Britches. You know, there's a wide range. And in fact, one month I had them read 2 books. The 2 books were smaller, and so I wasn't too worried about that. But they read Touching Spirit Bear by Ben Michelson and Hatchet by Gary Paulson. Now, Touching Spirit Bear is a very powerful book about a troubled young man who gets in trouble with the law. And the local Native American tribe, they take him in and exchange his jail time for an alternative sentence within the Native circle of justice. And so he is sent to a remote island to have a learning experience with himself, you know, to find himself. And he is to live on this island for a year. And there's food and there's water and there's a cabin, you know, it's all set up. It's really quite amazing. So it's surprising that the first thing that he does is throw a fit, a temper tantrum. He gets angry and he burns it all down. He's on this remote island. What do you do? And so we contrast that book with Hatchet. Now, Hatchet is a little bit different because Hatchet, he is in a plane accident over Canada, and he is stranded there by himself, and he has to survive also with no supplies. And so it talks about his experience. And in the class, we were able to talk about both of them at the same time. And it was fascinating because both books are on survival, but one of the characters survived, one of them thrived, you know, and what was the difference? And we discussed the differences, the similarities, the what ifs. We went out into an empty field to have the discussion. We discussed the characters. We discussed whose experience was more difficult. And we talked about self-reliance and skills that were needed. And it was really quite an amazing experience. So the books are great. I love the books. The journal writing is an opportunity that they get to write in this journal that they'll be sharing with the class. And it's their observations that they have in their life that they get to write down. And it is an opportunity for them to show respect for others and to share their own observations. And they get to teach others what they learned and what they have experienced. Alrighty, the cost. What does this cost? What does it cost? So the teacher manual you will need for each one of the teachers. You can find them at my on Curriculum Square over at my storefront, which is the Homeschooling Librarian. I know, original. I need to come up with a different name. Anyway, so you'll each need a manual, and then you'll also need the Georgic Lectures by William Deneau, and instructions to get that is in the manual. So there's that. For the students, they will each need their own student binder, and they can either purchase one on the website on my storefront, or there is instructions in the teacher manual on how to make your own if you're up for that challenge. Semester fees, you should include all the supplies that you'll need for your different projects, your field trips, your snacks, all the dirt that you'll be doing, all the seeds that you'll be loving. And I estimate, well, when I've taught the class, I've taught it between $35 and $50 per student per semester. And that way I'm able to cover the cost of the lecture CD and any expenses that incur. It's not an expensive project to teach. However, the projects that the students do outside of class are not part of the class fee. So if they decide to raise chickens, then that will need to come out of their own pocket. Or if they're planting a garden, if they're milking cows, all of that sort of thing will come out of the student's pocket, and they will need to have a plan for that. So those student fees do not cover that. Now, the projects that I mentioned is, it's a fun little farm project that they get to choose to do. For example, my son Ben, he his project is chickens. He loves chickens. We've had them for a long time, since he was about 3, and he has been one of the main caretakers for years. He talks with them daily. He takes care of their owies. He feeds and waters them, even when it's super cold outside. He knows their personalities, what stresses them out, and how to call them so that they all run to him. Well, one weekend last fall, one of his favorite chickens died during a cold snap. It got super cold early in the year, and the chicken just couldn't handle it and passed away during the night. And Ben was really, really upset when he found Frightful, his chicken, the next day. He was so upset. He came inside and he talked about Frightful and cried. And, you know, then he went outside and dug in the snow and dug in the dirt and buried his chicken. Is it wrong that I'm grateful for this experience? I don't think so. Ben's heart will heal. You know, I feel like he loves his other chickens even more. And we had some great conversations about the chickens. And, you know, there's just something about learning these things with hands-on instead of just from a book. Here is a brief outline of the weekly class. It is a 4-week rotating schedule. So every 4 weeks, you repeat what you did. You have a lecture, you have a student presentations and group discussions. And the 4th week, you rotate between, the 3rd week, you have your book discussion, and the 4th week, you have your field trip. And in the manual, there are instructions on how to do this in more detail. It sounds a little confusing, but there's a complete map out, so you know exactly what to do. That's one thing I really like about my manual is I really wanted to write it so that you didn't have to attend a special training. You didn't have to, you know, travel or whatever. You can just read the manual and you'll understand the class. And I really, really tried hard to do that with my class. And so if that's the case, that's great. If not, I do have a lecture available where I go through the book even more. But of course, you can always just email me and I'm happy to help you out. So what if you didn't grow up on a farm? Can you still teach a class like this? Absolutely. Funny story. When I was younger, I have a fun memory from wintertime. You know, calving, of course, was in February and March, and that time in Idaho is sketchy at best. Usually there's much snow and much ice and much blowing. It's pretty cold. And of course, that's when calving season was for us. And one winter was particularly cold. And I remember my dad going out every night and checking on the cows because it was so cold. And if he had to assist with the delivery or if it was difficult, he would come and get us and we would help him pull the chains. And, you know, it was great memories. On the coldest nights when the wind was blowing and it was easily 20 below, just so cold, when the calves were born, my dad would get them and bring them into the house and sit them by the fire so that they would warm up and dry before going back out to their mama cow. And, you know, it's kind of funny because we never had an indoor pet. We joke about how we never had a dog in the house, but we had a cow in the house. You know, it's just, for us, it's a farmer joke. It was funny for us. It was funny. But what did I learn about this? You know, looking back, what is the learning experience? Why do I remember that? Why does that stand out? And, you know, in the coldest months, in the coldest part of our lives, the hardest part of our lives, there are more vulnerable. The more vulnerable is out there, and they need watched over, and they need helped. When it is the hardest, that is when the unprotected need us the most. And I have noticed in my life that when I'm having a hard time, when I'm really struggling, that is when not that I like to, but I seek out those who might need more care than myself at the time. And, you know, people can experience these kinds of experiences not on a farm. You know, have you ever had a hard time and figured out how to get over it? You know, have you ever had to be frugal? Have you ever had to cling to hope? Or have you ever tried to wiggle your entrepreneur finger? Have you ever been caught not prepared for an emergency? All of these experiences fall within the categories that are taught within the class. And so you'll be able to relate and share with the students. So if you didn't grow up on a farm, no worries. No worries at all. The principles taught in the class are universal and are transferred to other scenarios besides the farm situation. You know, in closing, my dogs and cats are having fun. Think about it. Is it true that our great United States of America, here's my dog. I don't know what they're doing, but they're obviously having fun. Is it true that our great United States of America depends on the ideal of a domestic production to maintain its freedom? Do we need to be able to produce our own food to maintain our freedom? You know, and how is it that us connecting ourselves to the land will make us more free? You know, these are parts of the questions that are discussed in the class. These are some of the things that you need to think about. What makes us a free country? You know, and how is it tied to the land? Because it's very much tied to the land, as Thomas Jefferson talked about, how farmers are the most important people out there. And I agree. And not just because of my dad is a great farmer. Here he is milking cows as a kid. And then in his wheat fields that he worked so hard and was so proud when he was able to have a good harvest. Farmers are so important. You know, the poem that is discussed in the class is So God Made a Farmer. And there are so many things that you can learn from that poem and tie into your own life. So whether you're in the country or in the city or in between, the principles of a farmer will help you become more free. I look forward to answering any questions that you have. And I've got a coupon that you're welcome to use. It's good for another month. And I will talk with you on the bar.